Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Ross from Hive Business. Really pleased today to invite Simon, who's our Chartered Tax Director. Welcome today, Simon.
Thanks, Ross. Hi, everybody.
Grand. What we wanted to talk about today is actually the beautifully interesting area of kind of tax. And I think what we wanted to kind of cover off again, this is hopefully helpful for our viewers, is I suppose the areas of tax that we do deal with in Hive and perhaps the areas that we don't deal with and how that kind of blends together with
Yeah.
the normal kind of services that our clients get from us. I think there's probably an expectation, I suppose, that anytime the word tax is mentioned, that well, that's a problem for the accountant to resolve. Is that fair, Si?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair expectation. And actually, you joke about tax being interesting. I actually think tax is really interesting. That's why I spend so much of my time kind of doing it. So
Yeah.
take that with however you will. But there are so many taxes that are within and without of our world, I suppose, as well. You've got the usual ones that people will know about, definitely within kind of everyone's day-to-day life. If you're watching this video, your income tax, possibly capital gains taxes. There's all sorts of taxes that just people just won't normally encounter, taxes for generating electricity, things like that, dozens and dozens of taxes, not always part of what is dealt with by your routine accountant.
No, okay. And that's what we're going to try help kind of pick apart a little bit
Yeah,
today, just to help kind of awareness. So, again, kind of going back to basics, I think there's a blend of what the accountancy team do, and we're calling them an accountancy team, and what you might get from your accountants is actually a bit of a combo of accountancy and tax. So even that in itself kind of creates a bit of confusion to start with, because sometimes those words in terms of accounts and tax are interchangeable, aren't they? And I know strictly speaking that won't be the case, but how does that blend together?
yeah. You're right. People come to their accountant and they're not really sure. I think something we're learning more and more is that people aren't really sure what they think they're going to get from their accountant. They just want their accounts done. And
Yeah,
now it might be that accounts need doing so that a tax calculation can be done so that you can pay the right amount of tax and not get in trouble. But I think people want more than that without realizing they want more than that.
yeah,
They don't want to just not get in trouble. They they want to be paying less tax, and actually, that's where our expertise as an organization that really knows dentistry, really knows what we're doing, that's where we come into it. And we've got this split even between what you might describe as accounts and what you might describe as tax. We've also got compliance
yeah.
and advice, and those are kind of fundamentally different
Okay.
things as well.
Excellent. Okay. So if, an average person were to kind of come along with you, I guess the starting point is that they need to kind of keep themselves ship shape, which I think you're kind of giving the label of compliance. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that the fundamental basics that we believe everyone should do is have up-to-date financial information available. Whether you're an associate, whether you're a practice owner, you cannot make financial decisions about how your business is going without up-to-date information. That then feeds into what you rightly said there, what I call compliance, which is, ticking the boxes. It's reporting on what has happened in the past. It's making sure you have done everything the law asks of you in terms
Hmm.
of filing tax returns that are correct, knowing what tax is due, um, and making sure that, like I said earlier, you're not going to get in trouble, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah.
But those are the basics, and those are what people will come to us needing, but that's perhaps not what they truly want when you kind of dig a bit deeper. People
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
just want a tax return done.
Okay, that's really kind of helpful. So we've got, like I say, just to kind of recap some of the definitions there. So a standard person, if they're going to be compliant, they do have to prepare a set of accounts, which is one certain type of document, but they do also need some kind of tax calculations and tax returns, and that's another
Yeah,
compliance document. So technically, two different things, but under that kind of same banner.
yeah,
Excellent, excellent.
yeah,
And the,
absolutely.
the And the analogy in for the dentist might well be perhaps a bit like a checkup and hygiene appointment. So it's the core kind of capability of what perhaps a dental practice does, although it doesn't go any further than that. Is that the kind of the boundary?
Yeah, that's a really good example, actually. It's your routine checkups, it's your hygiene, it's the core of what we do. It's the essential work that people need really to kind of um keep financially healthy, I suppose.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, and would it be fair to assume that every accountant does that?
I it's the core package. Do you know what I mean? It yes, I would be surprised if that's what people think they're first coming to their accountant for. I need help doing my tax return or my accounts.
Yeah, okay, all right. And so if we kind of look beyond that then, which we're giving the label of kind of tax advice, and that's only a kind of semantical thing, which I appreciate, but how are you
Yeah.
differentiating then, and how does that differentiate between what perhaps your normal accountant might do?
The way I describe it, tax advice is when we're trying to look forward, when we're trying to change the outcomes of what might happen or make decisions based on things that could happen soon, rather than just fill in forms that tell the right people what did happen. It's about taking that extra step
Hmm.
to um, impact some change, basically create a better outcome for the person
Yeah.
we're dealing with.
Yeah, I always remember the kind of the horror stories you give me, because you speak with probably a new customer every week, and I know there's this kind of common story you get where you say, well, someone might be inquiring with Hive accountancy team and saying, well, the trouble is I had to come up with the idea. I asked my accountant about incorporation. They said, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. We should have done that 12 months ago.
Yeah. Incorporations is a great example because it does have a huge impact on the future, and it is the kind of thing where, I speak to associates literally every week, multiple times a week, new associates that will pay less tax if they incorporate. They've got accountants already.
Yeah,
They think they're getting accountancy, they're getting their tax done, but nobody is telling them actually you could be significantly, to the tune of tens of thousands of pounds better off
yeah.
if we just stop and take a look at maybe doing some things differently.
Okay, cool. So what kind of tax advice do you and the team give?
It can be quite wide ranging, as I'm sure you can imagine. We've talked about incorporations, but it might be capital gains taxes, it might be inheritance tax planning, and anything where we're thinking about, okay, this is something that might happen in the
Hmm.
client's world. How can we impact making it happen differently? Is there a better way to do it? Buying and selling a practice is a great idea, is a great example, sorry. Lots of people don't realize that actually what the accountant's got to input there can be really important. The way you buy a practice can literally save you hundreds of thousands of pounds in tax if you get, or cost you hundreds of thousands of pounds if you get that wrong.
Yeah.
But there's almost no real limit to what tax advice applies to. It genuinely is any time there's something coming up, we want to communicate with our clients. We want our clients to say to us, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I need a new car. Is there a better or worse way to get myself a new car?
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
simple example from everyday life.
No, okay. And how is this structured within the accountancy team then? So is there more kind of dedicated efforts kind of given to the proactive and the tax advice element of things?
We've got at Hive, we describe the projects team, which is a small team of specialists that I head up, and we are focused on giving that kind of advice to those one-off things. Um, and I think that's quite kind of unique in the way we operate, in that we don't expect everybody at Hive to know everything. Everything we do at Hive is about the right person providing their skill to the client.
Mm.
Me and my team do all the tax planning. There is some more routine stuff that we think is really important to include. So kind of all of our clients get this as part of our basic package, and that's dividend planning and profit extraction and looking forward to next year's taxes. So it's not so much the one-off things that might be happening, but how can we make sure your day-to-day goes as well as possible for you in terms of taxes?
Yeah, okay. So that is a prospective. It's a forward-looking thing that the team do give,
Yeah.
and that is included as standard. Is that what you're saying? So normally tax
Yes. Yeah,
advice
absolutely.
is very kind of circumstantial. But the one thing we think is so critically important is the dividend planning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Okay. Well, so we've got different team, right person throwing the right expert in the right. I mean, is there kind of a dentistry analogy to kind of help that? Is, how's this kind of framed for for the user? Is there so we had compliance being the kind of the hygiene and the checkup.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I suppose it's a bit like a treatment plan, isn't it? It's whereas compliance, everybody needs, everybody needs their checkups, everybody needs their hygiene appointments. Unless you've got a specific reason that is unique to your circumstances to need tax advice or more complex dentistry, that's when you get your treatment plan. That's when
Yeah.
you get your tax advice. That's when we work together.
Yeah, and some people want it, some people won't. Some people's circumstances are
Yeah.
different at different points in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so well, I think that's like I said, we've thrown some different labels on things there, but every business owner will need will need the compliance, which does include something called accounts. It does include something called tax. But then the Hive's extra kind of contribution is that we're also then prepared for tax advice, which is much more kind of prospective. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. What kind of circumstances then will that kind of should a client be aware of then?
So there, I mean, there's lots of common examples I can give. So perhaps we need to look at changing business structure. Maybe you've got a partner coming in or leaving. Maybe you're acquiring property or a
Mhm.
practice. Maybe there's been a substantial change in your profits as an associate. Maybe you're now doing a couple of extra days, generating a lot more. We should have a conversation about whether incorporation is right. There
Mm.
might be changes in your life. You might be getting married or getting divorced or having kids.
Mhm.
You might be nearing retirement. There's kind of an infinite list of
Yeah.
reasons, but essentially, if there's something coming up that hasn't happened yet, I
Yeah.
would encourage the question to be asked about
Yeah.
actually, is there a right or wrong way to do this?
Sh
That gives
oh,
us the chance then to that that gives us the chance to meet with you, have a conversation with you, understand whether options do exist, and then be able to plan to help you with it.
cool. Should a client be kind of quite concerned that the kind of clock is kind of started when those kind of unique conversations kick off?
We never do anything without being clear that there's going to be an extra charge. And quite often with tax advice, there does need to be an extra charge. It lets us dedicate the right time and resource and skill to solving the problem for the client. But what we do ensure is that everybody kind of gets a free hour, basically, so that we can have those conversations without fear of, like I say, an imaginary clock starting and a fee coming out of nowhere, which we do not do.
No, great. Well, it's great that you kind of create that. It's almost like an emergency hour, really. We want to make sure
Yeah,
everyone's looked after. There's always a bit of give and take. If there is, a really good project to kind of deploy, whether that's massive tax savings or an important event, then I think the last thing we want is for anyone to feel they can't call on the team for support and feel like that. Well, I think it's a false economy sometimes, isn't it, to not kind of share the plans because
yeah.
usually there'll be kind of a worse outcome.
Yeah, a lot of the kind of horror stories we've referenced and heard of in the past are because the client was just a bit scared that a bill might be coming. Um, and I don't believe in that. I don't think that's right. I think our clients should feel free to speak to us and raise these questions so that we can have the conversations.
Great. Well, thank you very much for kind of elaborating on that today, Simon. Anyone who does have a project, whether existing client or a potential new client who has feels that they can't talk to their existing accountant about important projects or for fear of whatever might happen, then yeah, we really do
Yeah,
believe it's a false economy not to get the best possible kind of advice and circumstances lined up
yeah,
for you, because kind of every tax planning has to be done prospectively these days. There's really no
yeah.
catering for backdating these days.
No, absolutely not. It's just not possible.
Great. Thank you very much for your time, Simon.
Thank you.